ever felt like you were about to hurl or faint right before decisively doing something huge? That's not fear. That's the gravitational pull of your next level self. Welcome to Catalyst Code, where we crack the internal code that creates the external result. This week, transformation isn't just a concept, it is a contact sport. I'm Diane Armitage, and today we're talking about quantum leaps. Not the pretty Instagram version kind, but the terrifying, exhilarating, white-knuckle, losing your damn mind kind. We're diving into Pritchett's You² book and a little personal tale that involves a 1,200-pound Outrigger canoe, a Denver girl, and the exact moment I realized paddling in air might be the most important thing I ever did. Because what you think is chaos, that might just be the wave that's here to carry you further than you thought possible. So let's ride. Now, quantum leaps, they jerk you out of your comfort zone. The normal reaction is to want to hold on tightly, but you're going to have to learn to let go. That's Pritchett from his book, You². And what he's talking about is not theory, and it's not hypothetical. He's talking about when you make the big leaps. Instead of doing these incremental little e's in your life, you're actually taking big leaps, quantum leaps. And this kind of feeling always shows up the moment you consider the leap. You feel queasy, you feel jittery, you feel nervous, you feel like you're going to throw up. And it happens in a nanosecond all at once as soon as you begin considering the leap. Now, Pritchett says here that your go-to is to freeze up, to try to control it all, when instead you've got to let go. He says when you take the quantum leap, you ride the situation, but you don't really control it. The only way you control it is knowing where you're going, continuing the pursuit, and learning from your mistakes. Now, this is going to mean something in a minute. Knowing where you're going, continuing the pursuit, and learning from your mistakes. Back in my Outrigger days, I was the gal who had come from dry land Denver and found myself surrounded by ocean-loving people. They surfed, they water skied, they swam in the ocean. I was this chick who had seen the ocean a few times, and I'd gone in maybe up to my hips as long as I had a good hold on my big brother, but I was not a fan of the ocean because I didn't know the ocean. Bob Proctor actually had to coach me through this not a fan bit, which actually saved my life later down the road, but that's another story for another podcast episode. So on some practice days, we would have this giant surf come in from a different angle, and the crews would giddily decide out of sheer joy to attempt surfing the waves in our giant Outrigger boats. Now, an Outrigger boat without people is about I don't think 400 pounds. And with a mix of 6 men and women, you're talking about another 900 or so pounds. And they wanted to get on top of these giant waves and surf them in toward the beach without dumping us all in the ocean, what we called a hoolie. Sounds so nice, doesn't it? It's a lot friendlier. A hoolie. It's really a garage sale. And somehow I was stuck in one of these boats because you've got to have your strongest paddlers for this kind of thing. And no one asked me if I had an opinion about this. I was just stuck in the boat. So we paddle out in front of where the swell is cresting, and we turn and we face the beach. And we're at a dead stop. No momentum whatsoever. But we've got the first step covered. We know where we're going. At least we are hoping this is where we're going. And then we look back and wait for this big monstrous swell to start barreling toward us. And as it approaches, the guy in the back, he's in charge of the steering, this 1,200-pound mammoth, he yells, "Paddle!" And we all start paddling like we're being chased by a monster, because we are being chased by a monster. And I'm in the middle of the boat somewhere, absolutely terrified. And that terror only mounts when the swell starts to pick us up and we start flying on this wave. Now, the key, they tell me, for the first time ever, just minutes before they head us to what I'm sure is our doom, the key is to keep paddling in sync, even if there's no water beneath our paddle. Because eventually there will be water beneath us again, and we have to paddle out of the rumble of the aftermath, the big chaotic surf, or we'll hoolie. Awesome. And I'm thinking, this makes no sense. They want me to paddle air, and just where are we going to be if we're not in the water, but on the air? Well, I couldn't ask this question out loud. I mean, I was the gal from Denver, the largest previous body of water being my bathtub. So I am now a full-on 100% participant in a quantum leap, as Pritchett writes on the same page, an act of faith, exhilarating. Not so sure about that. And then he says, and possibly scary at the same time. Absolutely, yes, more like terrifying. And he says, you have to give up a large degree of security and safety. Amen to that. And I didn't even get a vote. And plow through greater amounts of ambiguity and confusion and uncertainty. Me, definitely. This makes no sense. And wrestle with a totally new set of problems. Yes, I am told to paddle the air. So let me tell you, this is exactly as he says at the start of this chapter. He says, a pretty wild ride covering unfamiliar terrain, encountering obstacles I've never faced before. And most importantly, I have to let go of the control. Because at some point, I have to let the wave and the law of gravity take control. If I fight it, if I go against what it knows to do to carry me, I will be sucked under. See, this is the key here. What Pritchett says in the second point of the only things you control when you let go of the control. Remember, first step is know where you're pointing to. Second step is maintain your pursuit. Do whatever you know to do and keep doing it, even if it seems pointless, like paddling in air, because this is your proving ground to universe and all the support systems out there, as well as to the law of vibration, that you're in the game to win. You are fully engaged, mind, body, and spirit. So here we are, we're riding this giant swell and we're going higher and higher. And suddenly my paddle is no longer in the water and I'm up here paddling air. It was like that little dog Max in the Grinch's, the Grinch's dog, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And he's at the front of the sleigh and he's just running along in thin air with what seems to be absolutely nothing happening. And then boom, we drop back down and now our paddles are submerged in water up to our elbows and we're still paddling underwater. And the steerman in the back shoots us off to the left side because that's where our balance beam is. He shoots us off to the left side of all the froth as it's really churning. And suddenly we're in this super calm ocean that's like, what swells? I don't see no swells. And everyone is whooping and hollering and joyful. And I discover that I too am grinning ear to ear because I'm quite sure I have escaped near death. And then they're like, let's do it again. Woo! No one is asking me if I want out of the boat. We just turn around and we head back out to reposition in front of another monster wave. And this goes on multiple times. Well, maybe 4 or 5 times to be honest. But somewhere in the middle there, I began to enjoy the wild ride. And we got better and better at it as a team. Why? Because we were all tweaking our performance based on what we knew the previous wave had done underneath us. We were, as Pritchett noted, participating in this third step of the only kind of control we had. We were learning from our mistakes and heading back in. And more importantly, without me even recognizing it at the time, it prepared me for my next big moves in Outrigger. Because as a single man outrigger paddler, the tiny canoe that weighs 23 pounds, the only way you win ocean races is by getting in front of the swells and letting them carry you faster and farther than you could ever go yourself. Know where you're going. Continue the pursuit. Learn from your mistakes. Tweak your performance as you go. You can't learn from your mistakes standing over there on the shore, just eyeballing the wave. You have got to jump into the process. You have to take the leap. You've got to give up the control because the law of vibration and the law of cause and effect have got you handled. You, however, must set things in motion. You must take the leap. And then you've got to give up control to the wave of momentum that's lifting you up and carrying you, the wave of momentum that's done this over and over again 1 billion times since the beginning of time. This is old hat for momentum. Your biggest role in this whole process, in this whole initiation, is initiation. You've got to start. You've got to make the decision and go, and then trust it to lift and carry you to that point there, even when you feel like you're paddling in air. This is all about understanding your role as a creator and a catalyst in the creation process of your phenomenal life. It's all about recognizing, as Reverend Michael Beckwith says, recognizing, remembering who you are, recognizing, understanding, and honing your already existing superpowers in this creation process, and learning to rely in partnership on the two great laws that rise up and carry us every single time. Every single thing that is ever manifested in this world and in this life. The law of cause and effect, the law of vibration. This is the unerring process of manifestation. This is the secret that wasn't in the secret. So here's the moment of truth. You don't get to control the wave. You don't get to control the leap, but you do get to decide to catch it. You do get to decide to take the leap. You do get to paddle, even when there's no water under you. You do get to lean in, trust the lift, and move like someone who really remembers who the hell they really are. You are not here to tiptoe around transformation. You are here to leap, to ride, and to reveal. So get in the boat. Face that swell. And for God's sake, start paddling. Because that air you're slicing through, that is momentum. And it is already on your side. Thanks for being at the Catalyst Co.